Hey everybody, welcome back to episode number 4. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with Julianne from Solely Painted. I've known Julie for, what do you think, 3-4 years? 5 years?
Well, I've been at the cafe for going on 6.
Okay, so probably 5 at least. I think that's how long I've been here, so probably since I started. And I got to know Julianne from the cafe where she works, and also because she makes painted shoes. And I forget how that came up between me and you. Maybe it was a picture or something I saw online. But as an example, here are some children's vans that she painted with Beetlejuice and
Stranger
Stranger
Things.
Things. Yeah, 11 with a bloody nose.
Yeah.
Really cool. And what I love about these shoes is that you actually do something on the back for every one of them, which is like your signature move of doing something. You're not just looking at the fronts, but you also do the sides, and then you do something cute in the back. And this actually follows through, which is
hmm
really neat. So that's how I come to know your art. And well, there goes that. and and then I purchased a couple of shoes from you
hmm
and I fell in love. And the fact that in the way you work, you can take someone else's idea and turn it into art in a sense, and in two different ways, because I think I told you a theme like Star Wars, and then you did your own thing. I think it's The Mandalorian
Yep.
on one, Star Wars on another. I think
Yep.
so. And those came out fantastic. And then you have artwork that is like you're painting someone's dog, and that takes 40 hours,
Yeah. At
and you're
least.
going off a picture. So really, how does that work within your mind?
Yeah, it's a lot because
Uh-huh.
I do consider myself to be a very versatile artist.
Mm-hmm.
And it works with me because I get bored easy. So I
Mm.
have to change it. I have to do different things. I have to work with different types of paint, different mediums. So it kind of I've kind of have two different styles. I have a more realistic style, which is where the pet portraits kind of come in. A lot of the shoes I do. Occasionally, I'll get people asking me to do portraits. Um, and then I have a whole different other kind of style, which is this kind of stuff. It's
Right.
more like I call it intuitive art. It's
Mm-hmm.
more painting from my soul, hence solely painted.
Oh, very nice.
Um, and I focus a lot on color. It's more about the color than the subject.
Mm-hmm.
So I do try to bring the two together with the shoes, and sometimes I do purses and pretty much anything. Honestly, I've said yes to. So it depends on what the person wants. If the person lets me, if they kind of what you did, if you say like, I know I want Star Wars and I know I want what was it, the
Mandalorian. Yeah.
Mandalorian,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people are open to letting me take that and run with it and kind
Mm-hmm.
of do what I want. Other people kind of have a really strict structure to keep it within the, and that's fine too. So I kind of change it. It depends on who I'm working with. If I'm working with something that I do on my own, it's very versatile. It changes.
A lot to dive into there. Color is very interesting, and I think like the themes of the shoes, you might think, or I might think, that the color is what it is. But when I look at your shoes and how kind of I got turned on to what you did is that you're still mixing the color, and you're still bright and vibrant. And again, kind of in past conversations I had with the other artist, is something about you is in that painting as well, in those designs.
That's yeah, that's cool that you put it like that. I try to keep some aspect of my style within everything I do, even with the realistic things. The shoes specifically, I mean, that's like guy, girl, child. It's something everybody uses to kind of spice up what they're wearing, and
Mm-hmm.
it's very what I do is very unique, right? It's not something you can go to the store and necessarily buy.
Definitely not.
Um, and when you customize it, especially like the ones that you just showed me, like they were actually a gift for my younger sister a couple years back, and she loves Beetlejuice and she loves Stranger
Mm-hmm.
Things. So it's like, how can I mash the two up and kind of incorporate? I think I did a pair for you too. You did Rudolph
Right.
and
It's like a
Hocus
Halloween hocus pocus.
Pocus.
Yeah.
Just want, and it's kind of like, how can I bring the two together but still make it balance,
Right.
you know?
Two different themes, two different
Right.
seasons.
And that's where the color comes in,
Right.
because like you play with the color to, it's still two completely different things going on, but the color is what's going to bring it together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely a left and a right. It's one
Yeah.
way to, if you don't know, if you have to do this like I do, then colored shoes helps for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's, I mean, you're in it, you're doing it, you're putting your own twist on it, but then you have things like the things that you create for yourself. And from these conversations and just kind of, again, being new to creating, hey, Georgia, come here. Everybody, check out Georgia. This is Georgia. She turns 1 year old
She's the
today.
birthday
The birthday
girl.
girl in the room. So we've talked about how a little bit of you goes into everything, and the difference in creating for others and creating for yourself. Um, and again, talking to the other artists, there's, in what I experienced and they've experienced, and I'm sure you have, and you can tell me about it, is that you feel a little bit of the universe telling you kind of what to do. What's your experience
Absolutely.
with that feeling?
Well, it is different depending if I'm working with a commission or if I'm working with something I'm doing for myself. So the process is completely different.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, if I'm working with something with myself, it's never really about the subject. I
Mm-hmm.
don't really like think about, okay, I'm going to paint a woman or I'm going to paint a beach and this is what I'm going to do. It's never like that. It's more like, okay, which colors am I going to use first? That's the first thing I do.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
And I kind of just pick 5 to 10 and I kind of lay it out my palette and I just pick, literally, I wing it. Everything is, I wing it.
I'm
And
glad to
what,
hear that.
yeah, everything, there's no thought process at all to my own art.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even sketch, pretty much. I just go for it. I'm too eager to paint and play.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. And to me, like, there's this very, like, there's this therapeutic thing that happens when I blend colors. Like, it's just,
Mm-hmm.
I just love it. And I kind of get lost in the sauce a little bit with that. Sometimes I don't even know when to stop, sometimes, because of it. And then what happens is, as I keep playing, I move the brush as to how it feels like I need to move it. And then I eventually will see something. It might not be right away. It might take a couple days, a couple different painting sessions, but eventually I end up seeing something. It does tend to be in the same kinds of realms. Like, I do paint a lot of women, but they all have this like goddess vibe to them. Like a,
I've
I,
seen those women painting, and they're all soulful, which I think
yeah.
goes great for your name and maybe ours too. But yeah, there is a soul involved in there, a little piece of you in there as well, and
I
there.
think that's what it is. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the me I'm bringing in.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of mermaids, a big fan of the ocean and nature, and then you see a lot of that in my work as well. And I think that is, it just kind of happens that way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I also, it's important to set up my space too. Like, I need to have a candle lit. I
Love
also,
it.
I have like a little shelf on my desk. It has candles, oils to diffuse, incense, and sage. I don't do it all at once, but I kind of, whatever's fitting the vibe that day,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
Music is important. I have to have music on or a podcast I'll listen to. And I have to set myself up. It's, there's like this sense of grounding that needs to be done first.
Right. Getting
And
into the
then,
rhythm, warming up,
yes.
kind of.
Yeah, that's
Right.
typically how it goes for these kinds of paintings. For the custom or the commissioned art, it's more so about like, okay, I have to have the sketch right. I have to have the reference photo there. I typically film myself doing it, so I have to have the camera ready, the
Mm-hmm.
lighting right. It's much more structured and
Right.
like business,
Yeah.
like when I do
Right.
commissions.
Sure.
Whereas my art is more like kind of free spirited.
You know, so many things I want to touch on there, but like even with your commission work, it still have such depth to the painting. And we were talking about the last dog picture you did took you 40 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And you posted some videos kind of in process or through the process, and it just amazes me the layers that go into it and the softening that goes into it, um, and the time that goes into creating that, and it's still so deep and rich. So not to say that other process is taking away from your art at all, because you're still getting into it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think I think that everything I do, no matter if it's shoes or a painting, a pet portrait, it is made up of lots and lots of layers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that's like the oil painter in me, because
Mm-hmm.
that's typically what oil painting is. It's just you're building. Whereas acrylic, I mean, I don't know. That it could be different for other acrylic painters, but for me, I treat acrylic paintings as if they were oil, and
Mm-hmm.
I constantly am adding to it, and it does create all this depth. Um, it's actually not until I reach the third or fourth layer where I start to really. That's where I like to be.
Mm.
Starting the project isn't so fun for me. I
Mm-hmm.
don't really like doing that. But once I'm like in it and I add the extra details, and that's kind of where I can really,
You really start to see the end result coming in, and
yes,
there's an end in sight, and
yeah,
also you kind of, it's guiding you to finish now.
yeah. That slogan, that saying, like trust the process.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, it is. I actually create like I have this vision board right above my desk, and it says trust the process in many different ways,
Mm.
because I have to see that,
Mm-hmm.
because I in the beginning I am not trusting it. I am like, what is this? It
And
gets very ugly before it gets pretty.
Beth always says, and I think she said on her recording, is trust the process, but also don't judge the process,
Oh, I love that.
because
That's
she,
so true.
and we're turning over the studio right now for the show, and it's a mess in there, but parts of it are done, and you start to see it coming
Hmm.
as we filter back into the space. And but her process in design is always a mess, because you got to bring everything in. There's boxes all over the place. There is what it is, and then you're like, wait, you get one thing up, and you're like, that doesn't really change the room, and then you put another thing, and it really starts to come in, and then when you can see that end in sight,
Hmm.
you're like, okay, okay,
Right.
trust the process, get
Right.
through it.
Right.
Now, you also said you get playful with your art. I love that.
Hmm.
And I feel like I do that too now, where I can kind of make a cut just funny and see what happens. And to your other point of just seeing what happens,
Hmm.
and going back to a previous recording, no rules in what you do, which I love.
I
Um,
did see that. Yeah.
and and so, how's your playfulness come into it?
Well, just feeding off of what you're saying, I think that's what makes you an artist. I
Mm,
think spending time with your craft and playing and experimenting, I think that is what's going to make you a better
mm,
artist, no matter what it is that you're doing. So I do find that not knowing what you're doing and trying different things, like recently, I've been playing a lot with like gold leaf, glitter,
mm.
like just a bunch of like beads, like anything I kind of have in my studio. I'm kind of playing and seeing how it could work with paint, and seeing what doesn't work is also important, right? Like just as important as what works.
Absolutely.
So,
I think
um,
failing, I think, it's well out there a lot now. Failing is good.
yeah,
It really teaches you what not to do, and, more ways not to do it than there is to do it. So you have to find all those ways not to do it so you can figure
right,
out what works.
right, right,
And being playful is what gets you there.
right. I think that's hard to do
Hmm.
sometimes, because it's the stigma is like, okay, you have a deadline and you only have so much. Like for me, I do have a pretty wild schedule. I work different jobs. I only have like 2 days a week where I can actually play. And that gets hard, because it's like, okay, I only have 6 hours to play. What am I going to do? And
Right.
then it gets a little
Well,
crazy
then
at
you were
that
like, I
point.
just wasted all that time if it didn't work out,
Yeah.
but you didn't. But it feels that way just because the structure of our lives are so time sensitive that
Right.
you don't want to lose that time.
Right.
And in our heads, we think we lost that time, but we didn't. We just gained some more knowledge. And
Exactly. And you know what I just realized now, or what I've been realizing the last few weeks, is I have the tendency to start like 5 projects at once.
yeah.
And that's kind of where the inspiration comes. It's like, oh, I can do this with this painting. And I start doing that, and I kind of look over and I'm like, oh my God, I could do this with this purse. And then I start doing something with the purse. I kind of jump.
Hmm.
And that's like my playtime. I started all this stuff. Now the hard part is coming back to it and then trying to finish it.
Hmm.
That's kind of where I'm at right now. Is I have so many things started that I want to bring to this event that you have, and I'm really excited
Yeah.
to do that. It's like, okay, but I gotta discipline myself. Like, which ones
Right. What am I
am I
working
going to
on?
use? And this one is actually something I plan on having at the event.
It's
It's
beautiful.
nowhere near finished.
It's beautiful as is. Hmm.
And a lot of people, I expect a lot of people to say it looks done, but
Uh-huh.
I have ideas for it. And I am actually, this was a painting that I had started 5 years
Oh
ago
my gosh.
that I reworked
Oh wow.
for this event.
That's great.
So it's like I'm determined.
I'm with you. And I think Sam and Sarah and I were talking about having the deadline for the show has really made me focus and work on things, and setting a goal for myself to make 30 houses is seeing
30.
30. Yeah, so
Nice.
done. I just got to finish fluffing some of them, but
Nice.
um, I thought there's no way I can, but I'm going to give it a try. And I did ahead of schedule, and it's nice to have that deadline. And we've talked about how that forces you to evolve
Yeah.
in your craft and your playfulness and coming back to things. We talked about stepping away from things and then coming back to things, how important that is in the 5 year process.
Yeah, that happens with much of my art, to be honest with you. Like, it's not uncommon for me to have a canvas that I will call done. I will
Hmm.
post it. I'll even have prints of it. And then one day I'm like, you know what? I'm going to add this to it. And to me, it's like, well, I creating two prints of one art, and it's like,
Right.
and I'm the one keeping it, the
Hmm.
original. You know what I mean? I know those are the ones that are meant for me.
Hmm.
So that happens a lot, actually.
Well, it's in again, but you're exploring how you evolve. It's good to see an old piece because now I look at the haunted houses I made when I first started. And to me, they look almost plain compared to where I am now. But they had their moment of importance in time, and through my evolution of growing. And it's I still think they're beautiful. And I'm jealous of those people who have those because I didn't keep any. They all sold as soon as I put them
Yeah.
out. And I wish I had kept one, or I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. Do you know anybody with one? I don't know.
With a house?
With a house? Do you have
I
one?
have a house. I have one. I'm not giving it
I don't have
up.
one.
You should probably get yourself one.
If I only knew a guy.
You know what? It's so funny. People always ask me, like, do I have a pair of shoes? Do I? And just recently had made it a point to make myself a pair, but they weren't made for me. They were made for an event that I
Mm.
had done a few years back, and they didn't sell, and they were my size. I was like, I'm just going to keep these. So it's a pair of sunflower shoes now that I wear occasionally, and it's the only thing I own that I made for me.
Isn't that funny? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I should make one for myself, but I couldn't do it. I just love that the fact that someone else would appreciate what I've created
Yeah.
and want to spend money on it. And as we're saying, like, you put so much of yourself into your art, and time and effort and evolution of where you've come. It's kind of hard to see it go, but at the same time you almost want to see it go. You want to see somebody else take it and see what they're going to do with it, because if I have 30 houses, what am I going to do?
Right.
But they're going to send me a picture of it on their mantle,
Right.
or your picture up on a wall, and that means so much to me that it makes it worth it.
Oh, it's so rewarding, I think, too, to see, like, I get a lot of pictures or videos of a lot of what I do is done as gifts.
Hmm.
Um, so I'll Christmas, birthdays, I tend to get a lot of, and I'll get videos of them opening it, and that is just so cool to me. Um, that just
See
makes
the
it worth it. Oh
reaction.
yeah, like Christmas is
Yeah.
awesome because I get like a ton of videos at
Hmm.
once or pictures, and it's just as stressful as that time is. You see that, and it's like, okay, this is why I did it. This is exactly it.
If I remember correctly, one year you took 40 orders,
42,
42 orders 2 months before Christmas.
1 month. It was
That's
insane.
more than one shoe a day.
It was absolutely bananas. And at that point in time, I knew that I can confidently create 12 shoes a month.
Right, right.
So having 42 to do, it was right before Thanksgiving is like when I was like, okay, no more. I remember like it was just nonstop. I pulled many all nighters.
Mm-hmm.
It was the hardest thing I ever did. I worked all the way up until Christmas Eve morning.
Mm-hmm.
And I will never do that again.
I remember you saying that after Christmas, seeing at the cafe, and I had to go. I'll never do that again. And
Yeah.
leading up to it, because you were still working and still doing that after hours.
Yeah, I was at the cafe 5 days a week, and then I would come home and then I would paint all night. And I look back and I still don't know how I did that. It was actually very miserable, to be honest. I like pushed myself past burnout.
Right,
Like,
right. You're past
uh,
really enjoying your craft, but at the same time, you're still evolving. You probably
right.
you learn how to paint faster. You learn how to get to the
That's
point,
right.
and you must have learned so much from doing that back to back to back.
I gotta say, the shoes, I don't do as many pairs now as I used to on purpose. Like you said, I'm evolving into other things, but the shoes taught me unbelievable amount of skills that I never thought. Like, I mean, I learning to paint portraits like this big,
Mm-hmm.
like I never thought I could do that. And now I'm like getting into murals, so it's like
Going the opposite
I'm
way.
going the opposite way. So it just looking back, it really teaches you a lot about perfectionism too. Like you don't have time to be a perfectionist, and
Mm-hmm.
I definitely fall into that a lot. Like there's no time. You have to finish this
Right.
pair. So yeah, taught me a lot.
It really does, and you learn, at least for me, as I've even made these faster and faster, I they haven't lost their creative and uniqueness, and I still enjoy doing it, and I can knock out maybe, well, just making the form and putting the bling on it, probably two a day, maybe three a day,
Oh, that's
depending
cool.
on how big or how exotic it is. But then adding the fluff to it, that's kind of like the time tedious. I'm putting the moss on. I'm hand placing every leaf, seed pod, little
Right.
piece of wood. Everything is glued individually and purposely set, but it looks completely natural.
Is that the fun part for you?
You know what? They're both fun.
They're both fun.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're actually and the way I did it this time is I actually made the houses with the bling on it first and then doing the fluff second. And
Hmm.
I think if it wasn't for a show, I'll never do it that way again.
Yeah. See, you're learning.
I feel like I would be better if I could get one completely done and know that it's done
Okay.
versus, but there's, again, for time wise and doing the show, I wanted to knock out the forms two, three, four, five in a day, put the bling on it, and then do all the fluff later and all the moss and things later. But I would prefer going forward to get one completely done, set it aside, get one, do one,
Right.
and really spend the time on it. And that was the other thing. Like I would love to wonder what it would be like to do this for a full time thing, to have the time to do the right thing in the morning and get those creative juices flowing, and then not kind of really let my imagination take over a piece and really stare at it for a while. Have you ever had that chance to really kind of take a weekend away and focus on just your art?
Yeah, that's been the struggle the
Mm-hmm.
last few years, but I will say during um 2020, like the lockdown, that's kind of when I really started getting into the shoes, and I thought that was going to be my time to do it full time.
Mm-hmm.
Um that April of 2020, I got 75 orders come in. I had
Wow.
over 200 inquiries where
Wow.
I would have conversations with all of these people because I'm
Mm-hmm.
not a machine. I didn't have anything set up where you can just hit order, like I
Right.
would talk to each of
Right.
these
What are you looking
people.
for? What kind of
Right.
design?
Yeah. And then set out of those 275 said, yeah, I want a pair. So that was my time to get an idea what it was like to do full time because I wasn't working at the cafe really because everything was shut down. And it was nice to wake up and like have my tea, and I did a little bit of yoga in the morning. Just that would be my way of grounding myself. and then I jump into it, and it was great. I remember that Christmas was like, that Christmas was great. I capped it at 25. I finished everything by December like 8th.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy, it was so nice.
I bet.
But then like it's so much marketing. See, the difference between like doing shoes and maybe like houses is the sizes. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
can't just make a bunch of shoes and then sell them because the sizes, there's so many different shoe sizes.
That's so hard, right?
And that's what made me realize I can't, it doesn't work for me to
Mm-hmm.
do this full time. There's lots of customizers who do shoes that do this full time, and that's, I love that. And
Yeah.
I thought that was going to be me, but because I get burnt out with shoes and I need to do the
Something
paintings,
else,
and
yeah.
it just wasn't going to work for me.
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward now, I actually just in August of 2023, I graduated um, yoga therapy. So yoga therapy is much different than teaching yoga. I also teach yoga, but yoga therapy is like bringing the yoga into your diet, into your relationships,
Mm-hmm.
your attitude, your sleep routine, everything. And so now what I'm doing is, okay, how can I combine that with this intuitive art?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where that's where I'm headed now to make it full time.
Well, I
So
like that you're really experiencing, exploring this more holistic uh, view and life structure around your creativity and around connecting with those energies to then give back and give back to people, because you're definitely doing that and being creative in the way that you teach those classes. And then I imagine doing those things makes you feel more comfortable for yourself, and then getting back to your art.
yeah, part of the program, it's a 2-year program that I just finished. You have to have 150 case studies.
Mm,
So it gives you an opportunity to play with your niche and like,
mm,
how are you going to do it? So I got the opportunity to do that. And I had just like a couple of people that were very open to, I didn't do art with everybody, but a couple people were artists and they did want to use that as their
mm,
modality. And so it was really fun to explore that in completely different ways. I mean, like, one person was more about like making lists and making like them, she needed to be able to see them in front of her, like when she walked out the door
right.
or like in her car or
Mm,
whatever. And it's nice to look at a list, and it's pretty, it's, it's nice to look at.
sure.
So that's what we did. We made these lists inspiring to look at. Whereas like I had another person who was very infested with dreams that they were having. And so we kind of played with dreams and painting, and it just, there's so many that brings that versatility back into it. And it's cool because it's different for everybody. It's different for me. I can facilitate it. I could be a part of it. I could watch it. I could just do so many different things with it.
Wow.
And
That
that
sounds
is
incredible.
it.
Yeah.
That is where I think my purpose is. And all of what I've been doing the last, I guess, 5 years now, um, that just got me here. That built the portfolio, that built the skills, it evolved me into figuring out, okay, how can I make this a full time thing and
Right.
still feed my soul, still pay bills, and still give back?
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
No, that's wonderful. I think that's, I mean, I think you really hit the nail on the head there, because we have to evolve. And we've talked about in past episodes about how you just got to start and you don't know where it's going. And it's kind of great not knowing where it's going in some senses, but you have to try a lot of different mediums to see what really pulls you in and what draws you to continue doing that thing, and how the other things that you're doing or that we do influence our creativity and our art. I always find it for my ADHD, I need to really do different things, and it feeds my soul to go skydiving, go roller coaster, go go to Iraq, whatever it is. Like I want to do different things all the time and try something new, and kind of think they call that hyperfixation, for a short period of time, just because not because of the ADHD, maybe a little bit, but more for I want to see if I love this. I
Yeah.
want to see if when I did skydiving, I thought, oh, I'm an adrenaline junkie. I want to jump out of a plane. It was honestly boring for me.
Wow.
I was actually not excited at all, and kind of was like, it was a good view, and it was
It's
neat
a
for it
good view.
was neat for a second, but
That makes me hard.
but I didn't want to keep going back. I didn't want to get my
That's
license,
cool.
but you got to try a lot of different things, and you're really doing that, and focusing it around your creativity and your art.
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, fell into the I went to college not for art. Something completely it's like I should not have done that. It was fashion merchandising. I
Hmm.
could throw up saying that. Like that is so not me in any way. But I tried it out. It didn't work, and I just knew I had to go to my roots. It just and this a lot of people say it's the hard way, in a
Hmm.
lot of ways it is,
Hmm.
but it brings back what you're saying, like failing or like finding out what doesn't work is it's so essential because sometimes later on you can actually pull some of those things, the things that didn't work before might work later on as you evolve, and that's kind of what I have found in some things. um
You can learn something from everything you do, even the failures,
oh my god,
and
yeah.
use it for good, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I remember one time I had this order come through, it was a pair of shoes, and then a couple days later she messaged me again and asked if I could airbrush t-shirts.
Hmm.
I had an airbrush. I was playing with airbrushing. By no means am I what I call myself an expert with it,
Hmm.
but I was like, I can do
Yeah.
it. I pretty much accepted anything that came through. And yeah, it did not go well. It did not go well. Actually, my airbrush ended up breaking during this process, and I didn't want to disappoint her, so I ended up painting
Oh
30
my god.
t-shirts. And I
Oh
don't know if
my
you've ever
gosh.
painted a t-shirt. I do not recommend
You
it.
got to stretch it out or
It
something.
was awful. It was so awful. And I remember like I had to pull an all-nighter for that. And I remember my boyfriend was so awesome. Like he tried to stay up with me, like, got a fire going for me, and he stayed out on the couch with me. And after I did it turned out okay, but I was like, okay, next time somebody asks me to do airbrushing, I'm gonna say no,
Right.
unless it's on a pair of shoes. But on a t-shirt, definitely not. And I'm happy that I went through that because now I know.
Absolutely.
Now I know.
I mean,
I was so confident.
learning from your failures is so important,
Yeah.
and then you're using that knowledge to better your life in a lot of
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah.
By saying no, sometimes you have to say no to those kind of
Trial and
things.
error is
Yeah.
just that's what it's about as
It
an artist.
it really is. Well, it's been a pleasure talking with you tonight, and thanks so much for coming. So, where can people find you? Where can they join in your yoga sessions or order a pair of shoes?
So I pretty much operate mostly off of Instagram at the moment, which my username is solely SOULY_painted. And you just send me a message, and that's kind of how it is right now.
Very informal. Yes,
Yeah,
which is nice.
the website thing is really a funny story. I'm working on it. I change my
Me
mind
too. I
too
get it.
much. Yeah, so that's where you can contact me. I also have a Facebook page. It's solely. Um, and then in terms of yoga, I teach at Healing Spirit Cafe
Hmm.
in Elverson,
Yeah.
St. Peter's
St. Peter's
Village.
Village. Yeah, very cool. Great
Yeah,
place to go visit.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
great spot. Has great
Yeah. If you've
energy.
never been there, it's a great little kind of walking one road. Oh, what year? It's very old.
Old, yeah, it's old. There's
And
a bakery there. Where I work there, it's a crystal healing shop.
hmm
So there's some fun things there, and
ice
it's
cream. Yeah, great,
ice
great
cream.
place.
There's dinner. You can walk the rocks, hiking,
And they
all
can
of it.
find you.
You can find me. Yeah, I teach there Wednesdays and Sundays.
Okay.
And then in the meantime, I am building yoga therapy with the art focus. It's still a work in progress,
No,
but
that's really
yeah.
cool. I'm so excited to see where it goes. I hope we get a chance to do this again,
Yeah.
and I'll see you for February 17th, 3 to 9 p.m.
Yep. I'm excited. I can't
For
wait.
yeah, I did this just for you. I did it for the houses, and I know you did an art exhibit a few years ago at the cafe, and I was like, who can I bring? I want Julianne to be here
Oh my God.
because you haven't done another art show, and I enjoyed your show so much, and actually won the raffle, not fixed. I
No.
bought a lot of tickets.
he, he bought a lot of tickets. Yep.
And if you ever been to the New Spirit Old Soul shop, the cornhole boards that are there, Julianne painted. And that's, I think, when you first started with Gold Leaf, and that was,
Yeah.
they're really awesome. And I won't let anybody use them for
Which is so
cornhole.
funny. It's like what they were meant for, but
They're
yeah.
incredibly beautiful. So,
Thank you.
um, so I just wanted to have you out again. I love your work. I love your
Thank
art,
you.
and I wanted to give you a chance to come out and do it again. So, the date and time was totally planned around you. Don't feel guilty.
Oh my God.
February was the goal, and you helped us pick a date and a time. So, and I'm so happy this worked out. Again, kind of just giving back, telling the universe, telling me what to do. It actually worked out perfectly. It's the right date and it's the right time frame. So I'm so happy that it worked out. I'm so glad
Yeah,
that you
I'm
can make
very
it.
excited. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I'm so
Really
happy to
grateful
have
for
you.
it.
So check her out at Solely Painted on Instagram. And we'll see you February 17th from 3 to 9 p.m. at 7799 Boyertown Pike at the New Spirit Old Soul Homestead. That is a mouthful. But thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great night.